The mining colony on Zareth 9 stretched across the jagged plains like a patchwork of metal and glass. Miners moved between their machines, their suits glinting under the dim light of the planet's twin suns. Dust swirled in golden streaks across the horizon, and the air carried a metallic tang. Elias Marlowe, the human foreman, walked along the edge of the excavation site. His boots crunched over rocky soil, his eyes scanning the enormous crystal formations that had long frustrated the colony's engineers. Today, the digging had revealed something unusual, something old. "Foreman, you need to see this," called one of the miners, a young technician named Jaro. He pointed toward a section of the dig where the earth had parted to reveal a massive structure encased in crystallized rock. Elias approached carefully. The object was enormous, larger than any creature he had seen in the system, and its outline was unmistakable. It was a dragon-like predator, its form frozen in the crystal, as though time itself had decided to preserve it. "Impossible," muttered Elias. He crouched to examine the crystal. Faint bioluminescent veins ran across the creature's scales, pulsing slowly like the rhythm of a heartbeat. "It's alive," he whispered to himself, though he knew no one else would believe him yet. The other miners gathered around, their voices rising in a mix of awe and fear. "Is it dangerous?" one asked. "No one's ever tried to awaken one of these in 2,000 years, another added. Elias stood straight, brushing dust from his sleeve. "Then maybe it's time someone did." The colony scientists had tried before. Their methods relied on advanced technology, attempting to reconstruct the creature's biology and awaken it with energy pulses and chemical baths. Every attempt failed. The dragons remained silent, their eyes lifeless, their bodies unyielding. Elias, however, believed in something different. He trusted in human patience and observation. Technology alone could not solve every problem. Sometimes, you needed patience, care, and common sense. "I'll handle this," Elias said firmly, ignoring the skeptical looks from the colony officials. Step back. For the next few days, Elias worked at the excavation site. Unlike the scientists, he avoided complicated machines. He observed the dragon, noting the shape of its claws, the curve of its wings, and the way its scales shimmered under light. He fetched basins of mineral-rich water from the nearby wells and, using soft brushes and cloths, began the slow process of washing the crystal dust from her scales. The dragon stirred subtly at first. A flicker of light ran along her spines. No one else noticed it except Elias. He leaned closer, whispering softly. "You're safe here," he said, almost instinctively. "I won't hurt you." He worked with care, knowing that any abrupt movement could damage the fragile crystal layer that had preserved her for millennia. Each day he returned, gently cleaning more of her scales, and studying the alien patterns etched into her body. These were no random formations, they were symbols, carefully arranged, a lost language of care and ritual. The miners and scientists watched from a distance, half in disbelief, half in fear. Some joked about Elias talking to a rock. Others whispered that he was tempting fate. Yet, he continued, determined to understand the creature, to awaken her with respect rather than force. One evening, as the twin suns dipped behind jagged cliffs, Elias noticed something remarkable. The dragon's eyes, half covered in crystal, glimmered faintly. The pulsing veins grew stronger. She was responding. He froze, holding his breath. The dragon moved her head slightly, tilting it toward him. A low, resonant hum vibrated through the crystal casing, as though the air itself carried her awakening voice. Elias smiled. "It's working," he whispered. The colony officials were not so easily convinced. They approached with caution, their scanners indicating energy readings too faint to matter. "Foreman, step away. This could be dangerous," warned Commander Ryla, a veteran of Zareth 9 operations. Elias shook his head. "No. You've tried machines and chemicals. They didn't work. This is different. Watch and learn." He returned to the dragon, kneeling beside her massive head. Carefully, he traced the lines of the symbols along her scales. Some symbols responded to touch, glowing faintly, Others pulsed when he spoke certain tones. Elias realized that this dragon communicated through pattern, light, and vibration, not the ways the humans expected. Days passed. The colony continued its work around him, but Elias remained focused on the dragon. He gave her a name, Vera, meaning guardian, in one of the ancient alien dialects he had deciphered from the patterns. Naming her made their connection personal, a bridge between species separated by millennia. Elias learned patience. He discovered that rushing the process only dimmed the light in her eyes. Gentle strokes, careful cleansing, and quiet conversation brought gradual progress. The miners began to notice changes too. Tools left near Vera were untouched. Dust that settled on her scales seemed to vanish overnight. A quiet sense of presence filled the excavation site. And even the skeptics could feel it. One night, as a storm of golden dust swept across the plains, Elias sat beside Vera, brushing mineral-rich water across her massive neck. The veins pulsed brighter than ever. He felt a subtle vibration beneath his hands. She was alive. Suddenly, her eyes opened fully. They were deep, luminous pools of shifting colors, reflecting the twin suns and the distant stars beyond. Elias froze, staring into the eyes of a creature that had once ruled planets. Vera blinked, then tilted her head, studying him in return. There was intelligence there. A spark of recognition. She shifted her massive wings, brushing them against the ground with a soft rumble. Elias felt a thrill unlike anything he had known. "You remember me," he whispered. The dragon made a low hum, resonating through the ground. The miners gasped, and some backed away, unsure whether to fear or marvel. "I did nothing but care," Elias said quietly, almost to himself. That's all it took. For the first time in 2,000 years, the dragon predator of Zareth 9 had opened her eyes and acknowledged a human. Elias had done what no one else could. Where advanced technology and brute force had failed, simple observation, patience, and respect had succeeded. That night, Elias returned to his quarters, his mind racing. The colony would want answers. Scientists would demand experiments. Military leaders would see Vera as a weapon, but Elias understood something they did not. She was not a weapon. She was a being capable of trust and loyalty, and that trust had been earned through patience and care. He looked out across the plains, toward the crystalline silhouette of Vera resting in the dust. Somewhere, deep inside, he felt a connection not just to the dragon, but to something larger. Humans, he realized, could solve problems in ways no one else could. Curiosity, compassion, and clever thinking were their strengths. And now, those strengths had awakened an ancient guardian. The storm raged across the horizon, casting golden light over the mining colony. Elias knew this was only the beginning. 2,000 years of silence had ended, and the story of a human and a dragon predator was just beginning to unfold. The next morning, the sun rose over Zareth 9, casting long golden shadows across the jagged plains. Elias Marlowe returned to the excavation site with a renewed sense of purpose. Vera, the ancient dragon predator, lay partially uncoiled among the crystal formations. Her eyes glimmered faintly in the early light, reflecting the twin suns like polished gemstones. Elias approached her carefully, mindful not to disturb her. He carried a basin of mineral-rich water, prepared with precise care, and a selection of soft brushes. His hands trembled slightly, not from fear, but from anticipation. Today, he would go further. "Good morning, Vera," he said softly. "Are you ready to continue?" The dragon lifted her head slightly, tilting it toward him. A low hum vibrated through the air, soft but perceptible. Elias smiled. That hum was her acknowledgement. She was listening. For days, Elias worked with Vera, developing a routine that blended science with patience. He observed every reaction she made, the slight flick of an ear-like fin, the subtle flare of her nostrils, the gentle movement of her claws. He began to notice patterns. She responded best when he spoke in soft tones and moved with deliberate, slow gestures. The colony watched from a distance. Some were fascinated, others skeptical. Commander Ryla visited daily, her arms crossed, her expression unreadable. Foreman. We need to be careful, she warned. If she becomes fully awake, we don't know how she will react. She could be dangerous. Elias nodded. I understand, Commander. But I've learned something important. Vera isn't just a predator. She's intelligent. She responds to care and understanding, not fear or force. Ryla frowned but said nothing further. She had seen Elias solve impossible problems before. Perhaps, she thought, there was something to this human approach after all. Elias continued his work, slowly removing the remaining crystal from Vera's scales. He mixed different minerals in the water, observing which ones caused the faintest responses in her bioluminescent veins. Some minerals made her glow brighter. Others seemed to calm her, encouraging her to relax. He spoke to her often, not in commands, but in conversation. He told her about the colony, about the work of the miners, and even about small details of his own life. He explained how he grew up on Earth, in a world far from this alien planet, and how he learned to solve problems by observing carefully and thinking creatively. At first, Vera remained silent. But gradually, the vibrations of her body began to match the tones of his voice. It was as if she were responding in her own way, a rhythm of communication that neither needed words nor machines. One evening, a young miner named Jaro approached Elias nervously. Foreman, I think she recognizes you, he whispered. I was near her earlier, and she turned her head toward you. And I swear she hummed when you weren't here. Elias nodded. That's right, she does. Humans can connect in ways no one else can. She trusts me. Jaro's eyes widened. Trust? A dragon? After 2,000 years? Elias smiled. Yes. Trust is a language all species can understand, if you know how to listen. As the days turned into weeks, Elias discovered another remarkable feature. The symbols etched into Vera's scales weren't random, they were instructions for care, left by her species thousands of years ago. The lines curved around her eyes, along her wings, and over her claws, forming patterns that guided him in subtle ways. By following these symbols, Elias learned to clean her more efficiently, to soothe her when she grew restless, and to encourage her bioluminescence to glow more strongly. It was as if the ancient guardians had left behind a message. Those who approached with patience and respect would succeed. Other colonists began to notice changes too. Tools placed near Vera were untouched, and dust seemed to vanish from her scales overnight. Even the most skeptical miners admitted that there was something extraordinary happening here. One night, during a quiet observation, Elias realized that Vera was trying to communicate. She flexed her claws in a rhythmic pattern, tapping the crystalline floor beneath her. Elias studied the pattern carefully and realized it resembled a series of symbols he had seen on her scales. You're trying to tell me something, he whispered. Show me. Over several nights, he decoded the tapping patterns, discovering that Vera was indicating areas of her body that required special care. It was the first time a human had ever understood the needs of an alien dragon predator so precisely. Elias also learned about her personality. Vera was cautious but curious, reserved but attentive. She responded to his voice, gestures, and even the light in his eyes. Occasionally, she would nudge him gently with her snout, or wrap her massive tail around the edge of the excavation site, not aggressively, but as a form of acknowledgement. The bond grew stronger with each day. Elias understood that Vera's loyalty and trust were not granted lightly. It was earned through patience, consistency, and respect, qualities humans excelled at in ways alien technology could never replicate. But the colony was not entirely supportive. A few scientists grew impatient, urging him to use machines to accelerate the process. Military leaders expressed concern that an awakened dragon could become uncontrollable. Elias defended his approach firmly. You can't force life to respond. Care and understanding are what bring her to life, not machines or chemicals. Some of the younger miners quietly sided with him, admiring his determination and his gentle strength. They began helping him, learning the patterns, and observing the subtle signals Vera gave. Slowly, the colony began to see a new possibility. Humans working with, not against, an alien creature. One night, a storm swept across Zareth 9. Dust and wind lashed the excavation site. But Elias refused to leave Vera unattended. He sheltered her with reinforced tarps, carefully adjusting their placement so as not to disturb her scales. During the storm, Vera stirred violently for the first time. Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating her massive form. Her eyes glowed brilliantly, and her wings twitched in anticipation. Elias stayed calm. He whispered soothing words, touched her scales with gentle precision, and adjusted the protective coverings. Slowly, she settled, her hum resonating like a lullaby against the roar of the storm. When the storm passed, Elias stepped back and looked at her. Vera was awake, alert, and fully responsive. The bond between human and dragon had solidified into something extraordinary, a connection that neither species had experienced before. The next morning, the colony gathered to witness Elias working with Vera. They watched as he guided her movements, cleaned her scales, and even encouraged her to stretch her massive wings. Every gesture was met with a gentle hum or a flicker of bioluminescence from Vera. Commander Ryla approached him quietly. "Foreman, I underestimated you," she admitted. "I see now that your methods are effective." Elias nodded humbly. "It's not me, Commander. It's patience, care, and observation. These are human strengths. Technology alone cannot replace them." Ryla studied the dragon, her expression softening. "I never thought I'd see a dragon predator alive again. And yet, here she is. Awake. Responding. Trusting a human." Elias smiled. "And she will trust more humans if we show respect. That's what makes this work. That's what humans can do." By the end of Part 2, Vera was fully conscious and responsive. She moved with grace and power, yet remained gentle with Elias. The miners and scientists had begun to understand that human patience and empathy had restored a creature that technology alone could not awaken, but new challenges were on the horizon. Strange signals pulsed from the far side of the planet, hinting at other predators, other ancient beings that might not respond as peacefully. Elias knew that awakening Vera was only the first step. Together, they would face threats that no human or alien had encountered in centuries. For now, however, Elias allowed himself a moment of quiet satisfaction. 2,000 years of silence had ended, and a bond had formed between a human and a dragon predator. A bond that would reshape the future of Zareth 9. The sun rose over Zareth 9, painting the jagged plains in shades of gold and orange. The mining colony was alive with activity, yet an unusual tension lingered in the air. Strange signals had been detected at the edge of the planet, pulsing with energy patterns unfamiliar to human scanners. Elias Marlowe knew what they meant. Vera's ancient kin had arrived. He approached the dragon, who lay stretched across the crystalline plateau. Her scales shimmered in the early light, and her eyes, filled with intelligence, met his immediately. There was no fear, only recognition. She understood the danger before it even reached them. "Vera," Elias said, his voice calm but determined. "Something is coming. You and I will face it together. Are you ready?" The dragon let out a low hum, the vibration resonating through the ground. It was a sound of acknowledgement, of trust. Elias knew that in moments like this, their bond would be the colony's greatest strength. By midday, the signals intensified. Massive shadows appeared on the horizon, moving swiftly across the plains. Alien predators, relatives of Vera, approached with precision and intent. The colony scrambled into defensive positions, but their weapons were designed for miners, not massive, intelligent predators. Panic rippled through the workers. Elias stood firm. "Everyone, stay calm," he ordered. "We've faced challenges before, and we'll face this too. Follow my lead." He mounted a high platform near Vera, gesturing for her to stand. The dragon's massive wings unfurled with a thunderous rustle, casting a shadow across the colony. Her presence alone silenced fear for a moment. The first of the approaching predators roared, a sound that shook the rocky plains. But Elias noticed something crucial. They were coordinated. Not mindless. They were observing, testing, measuring. And yet, Vera did not panic. "Watch her," Elias told the miners. "She knows what she's doing." Elias had devised a strategy that relied not on brute force, but on ingenuity and human creativity. He directed miners to construct barriers from mining equipment and rock formations, creating narrow passages that favored Vera's agility and minimized the predator's advantage. He paired with Vera, using her size and speed to guide and control the battlefield. Every move he made, she mirrored or complemented with precision. When he signaled a diversion to the left, she surged to the right, cutting off potential threats. The humans watched in awe as a human and a dragon predator moved as one, combining intelligence and strength in a way that no one had thought possible. During the first encounter, one predator attempted to breach the colony's perimeter. It lunged at the walls of makeshift barriers, claws scraping metal, jaws snapping. Elias shouted commands, guiding miners to adjust their positions. Vera reacted instantly, swooping down with a powerful leap. She pinned the predator in place, her weight pressing it against the rocks without crushing it. Her eyes met Elias's, asking for direction. He gestured to the right. Vera shifted gracefully, guiding the predator into a trap, a pit concealed by crystal debris. It fell in with a stunned roar. Unable to escape, the other predators paused, studying this new alliance. Elias smiled, knowing that humans had an advantage the predators could not predict: strategy, patience, and improvisation. Vera trusted him, and that trust multiplied their strength exponentially. Over the next several hours, the battle continued. Predators tested the colony's defenses, but Elias anticipated every move. Using miners as mobile supports and Vera as the central force, he created barriers, diversions, and safe zones. They used knowledge of the terrain to outmaneuver the attackers. One predator broke through the outer defenses, heading straight for the human work area. Miners froze in fear. Elias ran toward it, signaling Vera to intercept. With a swift sweep of her massive tail, she blocked the predator's path. Then, Elias instructed miners to use high-powered cranes to lift sections of metal debris, forcing the predator to retreat. It was not just strength that won the day, it was coordination, observation, and adaptability. Human intelligence complemented alien power in ways that technology alone could never achieve. By late afternoon, the remaining predators hesitated. They had seen the alliance between human and dragon and recognized a strength they could not overcome. Slowly, they retreated across the plains, disappearing beyond the horizon. The colony breathed a collective sigh of relief. Vera stood tall beside Elias, her wings partially folded but ready. Her eyes glimmered with quiet pride, not aggression. She had trusted him, and together, they had protected an entire colony. Commander Ryla approached, her expression a mix of astonishment and respect. "Foreman, I never believed it possible," she admitted. "You've not only restored an ancient guardian, you've fought alongside her and protected the colony." Elias shook his head, smiling modestly. "No, Commander. Vera didn't just help me. I learned from her. Together, we solved a problem that neither humans nor dragons could solve alone." The miners cheered, surrounding Elias and Vera with admiration. Young Jaro, who had first noticed the dragon's recognition, laughed in disbelief. "I never thought I'd see a dragon save us. And a human leading it." Quote, Elias patted Jaro's shoulder. "It's about trust, patience, and understanding. That's what makes humans special. We can think, observe, and adapt in ways no one else can, and we can earn the trust of beings far stronger than ourselves." In the following days, the colony began to study the aftermath. Vera moved freely among the miners, no longer encased in crystal. She allowed humans to approach, though always with awareness and caution. The other dragons were gone, but the knowledge of their potential presence remained. Elias worked with the scientists to document every interaction, every pattern, every response. He demonstrated that human patience and empathy were as valuable as any advanced alien technology. The colony learned that humans could restore, nurture, and even lead ancient alien creatures without violence. This was a lesson that would echo through generations. Humans could succeed where others had failed, not because of brute strength or superior technology, but because of intelligence, patience, and moral courage. Elias spent a quiet evening with Vera on the crystalline plateau. The twin suns dipped behind the cliffs, casting long shadows over the plains. The dragon lowered her head, allowing him to brush her massive scales. "You did well today," he said softly. "We protected everyone, and we did it together." Vera responded with a soft hum, vibrations running through the ground. It was her way of showing gratitude, acknowledgement, and understanding. Elias smiled, realizing that their bond was deeper than words could express. For the first time, humans and an alien dragon predator had formed a true partnership. The colony had survived a threat that no weapon or machine could have stopped, and it was all because one human had chosen to care, observe, and respect a creature that had lain silent for 2,000 years. News of Elias and Vera's success spread across Zareth 9. Scientists from neighboring colonies traveled to study the dragon. Miners told stories of the Foreman who had awakened an ancient guardian, and leaders began to understand that human ingenuity was a force unmatched even in the alien universe. But Elias did not seek fame or recognition. He knew the truth. It was patience, empathy, and the courage to try something others considered impossible that had made the difference. As night fell, Elias looked out over the colony. Vera rested beside him, her wings folded, eyes half closed in a state of calm awareness. The stars shone above, and the twin moons reflected on her shimmering scales. 2,000 years of silence, ended by a human, he whispered. And this is only the beginning. For Elias, for Vera, and for the entire colony, a new chapter had begun, one where humans could bridge gaps between species, restore ancient powers, and face threats with courage, intelligence, and heart. The story of trust, ingenuity, and partnership would echo for generations. The dragon predator of Zareth 9 had awakened, and humanity had proven, once again, that even in the farthest reaches of space, their ingenuity and courage could change the course of history.